we've provided. The $300, the first thing we did right in the beginning was the GST credit. Many people in the members' riding would have benefited from that. And it's the same thing today with the vaccine rollout all across Canada.
Je suis désolé.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have to proceed to statements by members.
The honourable member for Richmond Hill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Last Friday, February 12th, many East Asian communities in my riding of Richmond Hill and Markham celebrated the Lunar New Year and the beginning of the symbolic year of HoC. The HoC is known to symbolize positive traits such as hard work, reliability, persistence, and honesty. The New Year symbolizes a chance and a change to start fresh and connect with loved ones safely. Many organizations in my riding, such as New Canadian Community Centre, Canada Confederation of Fujian Association, and Red Maple Sunset Glow Cultural Association, have demonstrated the qualities of the HoC in the past year through community services and donation. I want to thank these organizations for their continued advocacy, service, and commitment to their community. I wish everyone celebrating a happy, healthy, and prosperous year of HoC. Gong hei fat choi, sin ling kwai lo. Happy Lunar New Year. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable member for Calgary Confederation.
Madam Speaker, the pandemic has devastated many small businesses throughout the country. Many are struggling to stay open, and for others, it's just too late. One of the sectors hardest hit is the fitness industry. A constituent of mine, Emily Slaniff, who owns and operates the Crush Camp in the East Village of Calgary, like all in the fitness industry, are desperate for a strong recovery. They know very well that the health of Canadians has suffered throughout this pandemic, and Canada needs to get back into shape, not only financially, not only mentally, but physically as well. As she pointed out to me, the Liberal government would do well to consider bringing back the conservative fitness tax credit or making fitness memberships tax deductible. This would get people back into the fitness facilities and back into fitness routines, who otherwise would not be able to because of the financial hardships this pandemic has caused. Let's work with people like Emily to ensure our economic recovery is literally a healthy one.
The honourable député de Lac-Saint-Louis.
The honourable member for Lac-Saint-Louis.
The term force of nature does not apply to many people. Wolf Salkin was a force of nature, an extraordinary individual who lived an extraordinary life that intersected with history. Born in the Soviet Union, a child of the Great Depression, World War II combat officer with the Algonquin Regiment, social worker, property developer, hotel manager, Wolf left us this month just shy of his 98th birthday. Wolf's love of a just cause was unrelenting to the very end. At St. Anne's Hospital, he was a tireless advocate for the rights and dignity of his fellow veterans. He launched an internal newspaper called The Veteran's Voice and, armed with his iPad, employed the written word to amplify and defend the interests of his cohort at the hospital. I ask members of this House to join me in expressing our deepest condolences to Wolf's wife, Louise, and sons, David and Andrew.
L'honorable député d'Avignon.
The honourable member for Avignon, Amitis, Matane, Matapédia. Madam Speaker, this week, the Bloc Québécois would like to underscore school retention days. That's particularly important this year because the pandemic has changed the world for children and youth. It's hard to find motivation when the only thing left from school is the hardest part, learning things. But we're going to get through this. I would tell youth to hang on. It's worth it, and we're going to get through this pandemic. Activities, sports are going to start over. We're going to be able to see our friends again. We're going to be able to get back to normal life. And if you persist, it will be worth it because your efforts will have positioned you for success and in order to really take advantage of recovery. I'd like to thank teachers and everyone else who works with youth and who have been showing determination and imagination. In this winter, we must not give up.
Honorable.
The honourable member for Saint-Léonard, Saint-Michel. Thank you. Last week, my riding was witness to a heinous crime. A young girl of 15, Mariam Boundaoui, fell victim to a bullet that was meant for someone else. This tragedy reminds us of an insidious pandemic which is slowly spreading in our towns and cities. Firearms violence is a real and urgent problem, and we must take action. That is why our government has taken action to ban assault-style rifles. But we must do more. We need to introduce red flag laws, which will enable community stakeholders, police officers, health professionals, and survivors of domestic violence to flag threatening individuals. We must also continue to invest in the CBSA in order to prevent weapons ending up in the hands of criminals. I would like to offer my deepest condolences to Miriam's loved ones and family.
For West Nova.
Monsieur le Président, c'est avec une grande...
Mr. Speaker, it is with great sadness that I learned on Saturday that my friend, a great Acadian, Father Maurice Leblanc, had died at the age of 96. He died in the Acadian region of Parent-Bas in Pubnico West. He was very engaged in our community throughout his life. He was appreciated for his warm nature. I had the privilege of knowing him all my life. He was a proud Acadian and generously shared his deep affection for our culture, both in Nova Scotia and outside Nova Scotia. Father Leblanc was considered a wise man, but for his well-loved community, he will always be Father Maurice. He had many talents. He enjoyed painting and musicianship. He shared his passions by directing bands and conducting choirs, teaching art history and being artistic director at St. Anne University. He cared about conservation and his Acadian heritage. He was also president of the Acadian Federation of Nova Scotia, the Argyll Arts Council, and he remained active in the pastoral setting until 2019. To his near and dear, I would offer my deepest condolences. Thank you for everything, Father Maurice. Sincere condolences. Rest in peace.
Honorable député de Miramichi.
The Honourable Member for Miramichi, Grand Lake.
A week ago, a legend in my riding passed away. Jackie Vautour. To some, he was a national hero for resisting expropriation, along with 250 other families from the tiny Acadian community of Clairefontaine in 1969 by the provincial and federal governments for the creation of the Couchibougouac National Park. In 1976, Jackie and his family, having refused to leave, was forcefully removed from his home, and his house and properties were bulldozed to the ground. Jackie and some of his family returned to live in the park in scruffy huts and outbuildings where he remained for most of the rest of his life. Les historiens ont dit.
Historians tell us that Jackie's struggle, along with other residents, against Couchibougouac's expropriation helped change Parks Canada policy so that it no longer forced people to leave their homes in order to make space for national parks.
Jackie, may you rest in peace. Thank you.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Brome-Missisquoi. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, there was the first meeting of the year of my youth council in Brome-Missisquoi. I'd like to thank my colleague, the member for Louis Hébert, for having joined us and for having contributed to the discussion. It was a great opportunity to speak with youth in the region and to hear what they're concerned with during the pandemic. We discussed issues like the environment and mental health. Those are also priority issues for me. I care about having youth involved in politics, and it's important for them to have a space where they can make their voices heard. I'd like to thank our incredible team of youth who participated in the council this year. I'm looking forward to keep working with you, and I'm looking forward to thinking together about the changes that our government can make in 2021. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Wetaskiwin. A technical problem. The Honourable Member for Long Range Mountains.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What encompasses over 330,000 square kilometers is in each and every province and territory, is very conscious about protecting our environment, showcases stunning vistas of coastlines, mountains, and rolling fields, employs thousands of people, recognizes the incredible history of areas, and is a huge contributor of our local economies. If you guessed Parks Canada, you are correct. There are 47 national parks and 171 national historic sites from coast to coast to coast. In my riding of the Long Range Mountains, over 1,800 square kilometers is home to Grossmoor National Park, which is also a World UNESCO Heritage Site. And if it's history you're looking for, my riding is also blessed to house Portachois and L'Anse Meadows National Historic Sites. These treasures of Parks Canada are huge contributors to the region's economy. So, friends, when it's safe to go and travel, remember, explore a Parks Canada area near you. In 2019, over 250,000 people traveled to my riding to visit Parks Canada attractions. I can't wait until I can boast we've exceeded that number again in a few years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, we've been demanding for a year that this government keep their promise to deliver a sector-specific plan for the airline industry. Their failure to do so has caused the sector irreversible damage. As a result, Canadians are still waiting for refunds for cancelled flights. Regional routes are gone, and visiting loved ones across Canada is difficult and unaffordable. Aviation workers are unemployed, displaced to other locations or to lower-paying jobs. NAV Canada doesn't have the means to provide service at a level of safety and coverage that Canadians expect. Canada's airlines can't compete against foreign airlines whose governments have supported them. Any plan now from this government is too little, too late. Airline workers know it and Canadians know it. Only a Conservative government can secure both jobs and our economy.
We'll go back to Edmonton, Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, the past several years have been challenging for global democracy. We've seen a rise in polarization and increasingly vitriolic language expressed by hyper-partisans from all sides. Too often this leads to violence. Social media has exacerbated the problem. Sides are chosen and anchored in Twitter bios. Talking points are delivered in echo chambers, amplified by cryptic algorithms. 6 decades ago, President Dwight Eisenhower seemingly anticipated our current need for wisdom, saying, quote, "The middle of the road is all of the usable surface. The extremes, right and left, are in the gutters." Mr. Speaker, before our political labels, we are all just human beings. The middle of the road is simply our common ground. Make no mistake, passionate political debate is foundational to a healthy democracy, but it's most effective when we engage in conversations not only seeking to persuade, but open to being persuaded. This will require a significant shift in our current thinking, but in the end, we'll all be better off for it.
The Honourable Member for Perth Wellington.
Mr. Speaker, a community without vibrant small businesses is not a community at all. The tourism, hospitality, arts, restaurant, and accommodation sectors all lost an entire season and are now facing the prospect of a grim 2021. I also hear from business owners who, for the entirety of the past 11 months, have had to keep their doors closed, either because of restrictions or because it would be cost prohibitive for them to open under current conditions. And then there are the countless entrepreneurs who were first the victims of circumstance when they opened immediately prior to or during the pandemic, and were then the victims of government red tape when the same programs that they thought would help actually excluded them because their businesses were too new. To secure our economic recovery, we need small businesses to succeed. That means a vaccine rollout that quickly gets Canadians vaccinated, and it means showing respect and support to small businesses. Mr. Speaker, we need to secure our future. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Elmwood Transcona.
The Canada Emergency Response Benefit was a lifeline to millions of Canadians in the early days of the pandemic. Despite NDP calls for a universal program, the government chose to exclude many people living on the margins and needing help in these difficult times. The people falling through the cracks include many low-income seniors, people living with disabilities, children aging out of care, and workers getting by on contract work or cash jobs. Now many of these people are being told to pay back the CERB, even though they don't have the means. The measures announced by the government just 2 weeks ago simply do not solve the problem for many Canadians experiencing poverty, a group that includes a disproportionately high number of women and racialized Canadians. We want to see Canadians supported all the way through this pandemic and come out in one piece on the other side. We won't get there without offering a CERB repayment amnesty to low-income Canadians still struggling to get by. This government has wrongly turned a blind eye to corporate abuses of the wage subsidy. The least they could do is show a similar sympathy where it's actually warranted. for those Canadians who need help the most. Thank you.
L'honorable député de
The Honourable Member for Beauport, Côte-de-Beaupré, Île d'Orléans, Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, our friend Raymond Lévesque, the author of the greatest love song of the 20th century, Quand les hommes vivront d'amour, died yesterday, the 15th February, a very symbolic date. He was our national poet, a patriot in the best sense of the term, and a modern pacifist. He left us on the same day that our patriots were executed in 1839. He was everyone's friend. He was an inspiring icon, a mentor, a reference of authenticity and commitment to his only country, Quebec. His remarkable work was recognized by the entire francophonie. He received a panoply of awards, but only refused one, the Governor General's Award, as well as the attached $30,000, because even though he struggled to make ends meet, his convictions had no price. Mr. Speaker, I would like to pass on his message, love, peace, and freedom. And as his character, Bozo les Culottes, says, pioneers may be forgotten, but you won't be Raymond Lévesque. We will always remember you.
Vivrons d'amour, il n'y aura plus de misère, et commenceront les beaux jours. Mais nous, nous serons morts, mon frère.
The Honourable Member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has long been a world leader in standing up for human rights and dignity. But today, Canada is silent. Some 75 years ago, Canada sacrificed blood and treasure to liberate Europe from the tyranny of Nazism. Some 35 years ago, Canada took a principled stand against apartheid in South Africa. Today, it is clear a genocide is taking place against Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims in China. Ces actes de génocide sont illicites.
These acts of genocide take place through systematic control of the population, sexual violence, and mass detention centers. Several reports have reached the same conclusion, as well as 2 American administrations.
Today, we call on the Government of Canada to recognize a genocide is taking place and to actively seek the relocation of the 2022 Beijing Olympic Games.
The Honourable Member for Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, my riding of Etobicoke Lakeshore has a special place in Canadian history. We are the constituency that elected the first Black Canadian to the Ontario Legislature and the first Black woman to the House of Commons. As we celebrate the 25th anniversary of Black History Month, it is thanks to my predecessor, the Honourable Jean Augustine, and her motion that was unanimously agreed to in the House of Commons. No small feat. Jean is the first woman elected to represent this riding in the House, as well as being the first Black woman elected to the Chamber and the first Black woman appointed to Cabinet. Recently, Maclean's magazine presented her with a well-deserved Lifetime Achievement Award. Leonard Austin Braithwaite was an outstanding Second World War veteran, a gifted lawyer, school trustee, and city councillor. He served the legislature from 1963 to 1975 and was instrumental in revoking racial segregation in schools, and he advocated for girls to be allowed to serve as pages in the chamber. It is an honor to follow in the footsteps of these trailblazers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions. Question orale. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, 63,000 job losses in December, twice what economists predicted. 213,000 job losses in January, almost 4 times more than expected. As unemployment lines in Canada keep getting longer, when is this government finally going to deliver a plan to get Canadians back to work in every sector and in every region of this country?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, since the beginning of this pandemic, we made a simple promise to Canadians that we would have their backs as we made it through.
That's exactly why our focus has been on seeing Canadians supported so we can do the things that keep us all safe, like staying home, like closing down businesses temporarily so we can prevent the spread of COVID-19. We know that the best way to restore our economy rapidly is to control the spread of COVID-19. That's what we're focused on, while at the same time we spend millions and billions of dollars to support small businesses and families to help them get through this. Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, job creators are tired of waiting for this government to act, so the Canadian Chamber of Commerce announced an advisory group to help businesses manage an economy that is quickly turning against them. They specifically mentioned the lack of a national rapid testing strategy as a major barrier to getting Canadians back to work. Why is the Prime Minister more focused on keeping his job than on the Canadians who've been losing theirs?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's interesting to hear the Leader of the Opposition calling for a national strategy on rapid testing when he doesn't want us to have a national strategy on keeping elders safe in long-term care homes. But back to rapid testing, we delivered this fall over millions, close to 19 million rapid tests to provinces and territories and are working with them to get them rolled out. But indeed, we have seen in a number of provinces and territories, they haven't moved forward quickly as we'd like on rapid testing, which is why we're going to keep working with them to protect all Canadians and get our economies rolling again.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, on the weekend, the United Kingdom announced that it had vaccinated 15 million people in 60 days. The United States has vaccinated over 54 million people, including more people every single day last week than Canada has vaccinated so far. And this morning, Chile announced that it had vaccinated 2 million of its citizens. While the world is vaccinating by the millions, this government can only deliver a few thousand. Where is the plan to get vaccines into the arms of Canadians?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, back in November, we announced to Canadians our vaccination plan that would see 6 million vaccinations in the first quarter by the end of March and have everyone vaccinated by September. I can say with over 400,000 vaccines from Pfizer arriving this week, we are very well on track to getting those 6 million vaccinations by the end of March, tens of millions of vaccinations through the spring, and everyone in Canada who wants to get vaccinated by September.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, after a major agreement in the delivery of vaccines by Pfizer and Moderna 3 weeks ago, now Health Canada considers that 6 doses per vial, not 5. Can the Prime Minister tell us how many doses we've lost because of his slowness? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I just indicated, in November, we announced that we would receive at least 6 million doses of vaccine before the end of March, and that is exactly what we are receiving. We will receive 400,000 this week and millions in the coming weeks, not only to reach our targets for the end of March, but to have tens of millions of vaccines in the spring. And everyone who wants a vaccine in Canada will have one before the end of September this year. Our plan is working, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Canada is the 38th country in the world when it comes to vaccine delivery. We don't know if we are really going to get all the promised doses. There is still uncertainty. We will believe it when we see it. When will the Prime Minister be prepared to vaccinate 300,000 Canadians per day? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we have been extremely rapid in signing contracts with different vaccine producers. We started to deliver vaccines in Canada. We are among the first in the world to do that. We are receiving this week more than 400,000 vaccine doses from Pfizer, millions in the coming weeks to reach our targets by the end of March and to ensure that before the end of the summer, all Canadians will Rather, at the end of the summer, all Canadians will be vaccinated. The Honourable Member for Beloeil-Chambly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gary Cobager from Laval University and from the Infectious Disease Centre developed a vaccine that was considered successful. With potential, it was tested on animals, and he asked the Canadian government for $2 million. He got nothing. It's one more example that is added to the delay with Medicago, and this has occurred in research centres in Quebec. This means that what should have been done was not done in Quebec when it comes to research. Can the Prime Minister tell us if he has set aside Quebec and now it's too late? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I am very disappointed with the suggestion made by my honourable colleague that politics played any role here whatsoever. We have been very clear from the very beginning that we would base our actions on the recommendations and opinions of experts and scientists when it comes to our vaccination program. We've done everything to invest in science and to find solutions. We have listened to our experts in their recommendations. And with regard to vaccines and investments, and we have worked to ensure that there would be vaccines for everybody. The Honourable Member for Beloeil-Chambly. Well, we have to have confidence in science. I can't believe that they would have recommended that Quebec be ignored. We don't know how much we're paying for the vaccines. We don't know when we'll get the vaccines. We don't know if we'll get the vaccines. He talked about 400,000 doses. That's his assurance policy. He bought so many without a guarantee that he hopes to have enough at some point. With now the possible ban that the provinces can buy their own vaccines, are we not at a point where the Prime Minister should publish the full contracts? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I know that in a previous life, my honourable colleague worked a great deal with contracts, and he knows full well that in many trade contracts there are confidentiality agreements. We have been transparent with Canadians with regard to the contracts that we did sign. We were transparent with our targets, and we are transparent with the delivery dates, as well as the deliveries this week, which will give us another 400,000 doses from Pfizer. We will continue to demonstrate that our plan is working. We want to vaccinate and will vaccinate more than 3 million Canadians by September, and all by the end of the summer. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Delays in vaccination will mean that more people will get sick and more people will die. The Liberal government has failed in its vaccination plan. The Prime Minister must show leadership. Will the Prime Minister put all the resources needed to ensure that Canadians can get vaccinated as quickly as possible? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Yes, Mr. Speaker, that is what we have been doing since the beginning. We have put all the resources required at our disposal in order to vaccinate the most Canadians possible as quickly as possible. That is why I'm very reassured to be able to tell people that we will reach our targets for the end of March. 6 million doses from Pfizer and Moderna, that we will get tens of millions of doses in the spring, and that we will have vaccinated everybody who wants to get vaccinated by the end of September.
Be South. The Prime Minister needs to stop hiding behind jurisdictional excuses and do everything necessary to vaccinate everyone. We live in a country of nearly 38 million people. To vaccinate everyone is going to take a colossal effort. So will the Prime Minister start showing leadership by committing today that the federal government will fund federal vaccination sites across this country to vaccinate as many people as quickly as possible?
Yes. Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, unlike the NDP, apparently, we understand Canada's Constitution and respect provincial responsibility on healthcare delivery. We have worked hand in hand with them from the very beginning to deliver vaccines for Canadians. We are moving forward on supporting the provinces as they vaccinate and as we brace for the big lift, the moment in which tens of millions of vaccines will be arriving in Canada, and we're going to need to work very quickly to vaccinate everyone. We will be there for Canadians as we have from the beginning.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford. I believe you're on mute. There we go.
Mr. Speaker, business investment is the lifeblood of our Canadian economy. Yet under this Prime Minister, investment in factories, machinery, and new technologies has declined dramatically. The Financial Post reports that this Prime Minister has presided over the worst business growth of the past 5 Prime Ministers. Today, domestic and foreign investment is at an all-time low. Does the Prime Minister recognize that our country has a serious competitiveness problem?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start by congratulating the Honourable Member for Abbotsford on his recent appointment as his party's critic for finance. He and I worked together in our previous roles in trade, and I look forward to working with him in this new role. And let me take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to encourage the Honourable Member and all members of his party to end their delaying tactics on Bill C-14, to wrap up the debate at this stage, and to move this legislation, which is really important in our fight against COVID, to the Finance Committee so it can do its work.
Before going to the next question, I just want to remind all the members who are coming in virtually, the microphone, if it's right in front, it'll make it difficult for the translators because it has that popping sound on the microphone. So for everyone's enjoyment and for the health of the translators, if you can just lower it a touch, about an inch below your mouth or above, and you won't get the popping sound. The Honourable Member for Abbotsford.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister really doesn't have to ask me. The chorus of business leaders have sounded the alarm. Former Bank of Canada Governor David Dodge has said that under this Prime Minister, Canada is, quote, shooting itself in the foot. There's no jobs plan, there's no plan for small businesses, and now no plan to salvage Canada's reputation as a great place to invest. Does the Prime Minister not recognize that his failed policies are chasing away jobs and investment?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and let me apologize to the translators for that popping sound. I'm grateful for the question, Mr. Speaker, because it gives me the opportunity to highlight the report that the IMF released today on Canada's economy. The IMF forecasts that our economy will grow by 4.4% this year, and they found, and I quote, that Canada's strong and well-coordinated actions at the onset of the pandemic provided crucial support to the economy and the functioning of financial markets and helped protect lives and livelihoods. I couldn't agree more, Mr. Speaker.
Well, thank you. I just want to remind everyone about 1 inch, not too far down, because then we all have to strain to hear the answer, and we all want to hear the answer. L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Canadians want to work. Unfortunately, last month was a bad month for Canadian workers. 213,000 workers in Canada have lost their jobs. It's not just a number. We're talking about fathers who've come home and had to tell their families, I've lost my job. Mothers have had to do the same things. Young people who just joined the labor market have just said, no, I didn't work out. They had to turn to unemployment. And the government has been mired in the vaccine crisis. Now it's the same for jobs. What it is doing to help these unemployed workers. Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to say that today we have had a good report from an international group which believes that the Canadian economy will reach 4.4% growth this year. I agree with my honourable colleague that we must support workers and the unemployed, and we can do it by voting for C-14. We must do it. We need to pass this legislation. They need this help. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know that the Minister of Finance was long the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and she must know that Canada is behind the rest of the world when it comes to the G7. we have the highest unemployment rate. That's the reality. We're far behind the UK, which has barely 5% unemployment, US 6%. We're almost at 10%. At the same time, the minister is saying, yes, it's going to happen. The OECD says things are going to go better. And Canadians want concrete actions. Now, what is the government's plan to put Canadians back to work? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I must be clear that I was speaking about the International Monetary Fund, which is another international organization, which had positive words for what our government is doing. With regard to the unemployment rate now, I must say that 71% of workers who lost their jobs during the crisis have already recovered it now. It's much better than we've seen in the U.S.
Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, the Biden administration's Buy American policies are set to disrupt supply chains between Canada and the United States. The government needs to go to the table now with the United States to prevent these supply chain disruptions and putting our businesses at risk. We need to protect jobs that rely on them. In cities like Mississauga and Windsor, many sectors will be affected by these Buy American policies. What is the government doing to secure Canadian jobs?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for that question, and I want to assure her and Canadians that our government will always stand up for Canadian businesses and our workers. Canada and the United States have agreed to consult closely, also to avoid any measures that could constrain bilateral trade and economic growth between our two countries. I want to remind the member that Canada is the largest export to the U.S., buying more than from the U.S. than China, Japan, and the UK combined. Canada is the #1 customer in more than 32 states. We're going to take a Team Canada approach to ensure that Canadian interests, Canadian jobs are absolutely top priority. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Kelowna Lake Country.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Buy American policies haven't come out of left field. They were in the Biden administration's election platform. And the fact is that the language in these policies are much stronger than anything we've ever seen before coming from the United States. Manufacturers have already warned that this could result in them having to move south and take their business there. There are jobs at risk. Canadian jobs will be affected by these Buy American policies. What's the plan?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, to Canadian businesses and workers, I want you to know that our government is actively engaging with our American counterparts at all levels, and we're always going to stand up for the best interests of Canadians. The Prime Minister raised this in his discussion with President Biden, and also spoke with Vice President Harris about strengthening this trade relationship to avoid any unintended consequences of the Buy American policies for the benefit of both countries. We're always going to take a Team Canada approach, working with Canadian businesses, our exporters, our manufacturers, our industries, just as we have done the last 5 years, and we're going to keep doing this in the interest of Canadian jobs.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. We continue to fall. Canada is now 52 in the world when it comes to vaccination rates. Instead of waiting for foreign companies to provide us with their product, we could have used doses created in Quebec. Yes, world-renowned experts from the University of Laval had created a vaccine that seemed to work. Furthermore, they did it at the start of the pandemic. They even got to the last stage, the testing, but the government said that it wasn't interested and refused to fund the $2 million they needed. It's incredible. Why did the government turn its back on Quebec science? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my honourable colleague for the question. Mr. Speaker, let's set the record straight. On March 11th, the World Health Organization declared there was a pandemic. On March 23rd, 12 days later, we announced millions to support the bio manufacturing sector, and we also announced $600 million additional dollars about a month after the pandemic was declared. We have invested more than $800 million to support biomanufacturing in Canada, including Quebec companies like Medico, where we invested more than $170 million to provide vaccines to Canadians in the future. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. 800 million, but not 2 million for an innovative project like this. The UK didn't have the massive production capacity either, but they didn't throw in the towel. No, they didn't say it was too difficult. They rolled up their sleeves and they increased their production capacity. Today, they're heavily vaccinating their citizens, and Canada is awaiting its turn. Quebec researchers just wanted $2 million out of the $800 million. How could the government miss the boat so greatly? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable colleague for the question. I have a great deal of respect for Quebec researchers and even the laboratory in question. I've already visited, Mr. Speaker, but to set the facts straight, we invested over $160 million. And in addition to that, we also invested in Medico and a number of other countries in Montreal and Quebec. Mr. Speaker, we made investments, structural investments in the industry. We'll continue to invest in R&D and marketing the vaccines in the country.
Center. Mr. Speaker, during a disastrous interview this weekend, a representative of Huawei Canada, Morgan Elliott, could not, on behalf of the company, either condemn the treatment by the Chinese government detained Canadians Michael Corbett and Michael Spavor, nor could he explain why Huawei patent technology was being used in the Uyghur detention camps. The words are written all over the walls. It's time to ban Huawei. Why is this government continuing to drag its feet?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable colleague for the question. Mr. Speaker, as we've said many times, we will be guided in our decision when it comes to 5G in Canada by national security, Mr. Speaker. We're not going to be dictating any timetable by the opposition, but we have said it time and time again that what's going to dictate our decision, Mr. Speaker, is national security. We understand that 5G is going to have a tremendous impact for generations to come, and Canadians rest assured that this government will take the appropriate decision to make sure that we make the best decision in the interest of all Canadians for generations to come.
The honourable member for Edmonton Centre.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Canadian representative said in the interview that the Huawei executive, Meng Wanzhou, has done nothing wrong, suggesting that her detention in a $13 million Vancouver mansion is the exact same as the containment of the two Michaels in China. All the while, the government has partnered with Huawei to the tune of almost $5 million to fund university research here in Canada. How can this government claim to take human rights seriously while Huawei equipment is being used by the Chinese government in Uyghur detention camps?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I am very pleased to answer that question from the member. An experienced member like him, Mr. Speaker, should know, like members in this House know, that the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council is responsible for the administration of the Alliance grants. Grants have been awarded through an independent process, which is managed at arm's length from the government. But further, last September, Mr. Speaker, we did publish a policy statement on research security, which included instructing the federal granting councils to review their security policies, Mr. Speaker, so that Canadian researchers can appropriately protect their work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has long been a world leader in human rights and dignity, but today Canada is silent. Some 75 years ago, Canada liberated Europe from the tyranny of Nazism with blood and treasure. Some 35 years ago, Canada took a principled stand against apartheid in South Africa. Will this government recognize that a genocide is taking place against the Uyghur people and other Turkic Muslims in China?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as my colleague will know, our government has always taken a very principled approach with respect to the violation of human rights. We are gravely preoccupied by the allegations of mistreatment of Uyghurs and other ethnic minorities in the Xinjiang area, and we are looking at all of the available evidence. In the meantime, we have urged China to allow experts into the country to examine the situation so that they can see for themselves what is actually being alleged and committed.
Honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, many reports have concluded that there is a genocide underway. These reports document systematic control of the population, sexual violence, and massive detentions. Will the government maintain its silence, or will it take a clear position and recognize this genocide? Will it ask the CEO to move the Beijing 2022 Olympics? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I indicated in English, our government has always put a lot of importance on the issue of human rights, and we are very concerned by the treatment of Uyghurs and other minorities in China. We demand that China accept experts to come in and examine the situation in the Xinjiang region to see whether or not there is unacceptable treatment and abuses of human rights and of the Uyghur people.
Mr. Speaker, as the pandemic continues, we're learning that for many people, the effects of COVID-19 can last over the long term with debilitating symptoms like shortness of breath and chronic fatigue. In some cases, these symptoms are lasting for months and making it impossible for affected Canadians to work. Because of the newness of the disease, government and private insurers are too often getting away with letting these Canadians fall through the cracks. Will the minister commit to extending the EI sickness benefit to 50 weeks and make it retroactive to January when many COVID long haulers' EI sickness benefits expired?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, paid sick leave has been a cornerstone of our public health response to COVID-19, both through the CERB to the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit and indeed into EI. Our government is committed to extending EI sickness benefits from 15 weeks to 26 weeks, and we stand firm and committed to doing just that. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Churchill, Kiwatnook-Aski.
Mr. Speaker, Tatasqueyak Cree Nation has been forced to not only sue this government over their failure to provide clean drinking water, but to take their complaint to the UN. A spokesperson for the Minister of Indigenous Services said that the water in TCN continues to meet approved guidelines. Guidelines? The water is making people sick. Meanwhile, chiefs are expressing fear of reprisals if they stand up to this government. TCN is standing up, and they have my support and the support of Northern Manitoba. Enough with the excuses. When will the government act to fix the problem?
Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me say first off that we absolutely respect the rights of Indigenous groups, including the Tatasqueyak Cree Nation, to seek intervention of the courts, and we absolutely must respect that process. Our government continues to support the Tatasqueyak in the repairs and upgrades to their water system, as the water quality does indeed continue to meet approved guidelines. I would point out that since 2016, Indigenous Services Canada has provided over $23.5 million towards water and wastewater upgrades, which has provided new lagoon, lift station, distribution lines, and repairs and upgrades to the water treatment plant, as well as a detailed source of water study. But we will continue to engage with the community and get to the root of this problem.
Honourable Member for Markham-Stouffville.
Mr. Speaker, York Region, particularly Markham, Richmond Hill and Vaughan, and the City of Toronto continue to grow each year. That means more cars on the road, more time spent getting around our region, and more pollution in the air each day. Can the Minister update
Hey, Nigel,
the House
it's Randy. How you doing?
on our commitment to fund major transit projects and our plans to establish a permanent public transit fund?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for Markham-Stouffville for her commitment to public transit. I understand the pain of sitting in a traffic jam on the Don Valley Parkway. It wastes people's time while polluting our air. Last week, our government announced $15 billion in new funding for public transit, as well as $3 billion ongoing permanent public transit money to support major projects like subways, zero-emission buses, and bike paths. This is about public transit that will help Canadians get around in faster, cleaner, and more affordable ways.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, countries around the world are ramping up their vaccination pace because of the spread of the UK and South African variants. These variants are highly contagious, and modeling, it's very concerning to see what it could do. We've seen the results of what the UK variant did in a long-term care facility in Barrie, and the South African variant has been discovered in other places in the country. Is the Prime Minister concerned that our slow pace of vaccinations in Canada has left Canadians vulnerable to a potentially larger third wave due to the variant? And if so, what's he doing about it?
Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And we share the member opposite's concern about the effect of variants getting hold in any Canadian community. And that's why we've worked so diligently with provinces and territories to support them in all of their efforts to contain the virus, including sending in additional support to particular settings like the one that she mentioned with Canadian Red Cross to help ensure that we are doing a thorough job containing those viruses. Mr. Speaker, this government will stop at nothing to protect Canadians and to support provinces and territories in their essential work.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the best way to protect Canadians against the variant is with a vaccine that we don't have right now. Now, other countries around the world have actually slowed and stopped their vaccination programs that have been using the AstraZeneca vaccine because of its reported ineffectiveness against variants. As well, Novavax, one of the candidates that the government has signed contracts with to be produced here in Canada, also has severe concerns about the effectiveness against variants. So we don't have mRNA capacity really in Canada right now. The government isn't working with companies that do have it. We're slow to receive those vaccines. If Novavax and AstraZeneca don't work against the variants, and we don't have mRNA capacity, what's plan B?
Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And first of all, we do have mRNA vaccines, 2 of them to be precise, and they're 90% effective. In fact, the manufacturers are very confident that they're also effective against the variants. And those are the ones, in fact, that we'll be receiving more of each and every week, including this week, 400,000 from Pfizer, an additional 400,000 the week after, et cetera. And Mr. Speaker, I am very confident in the work of the Health Canada regulators to make sure that whatever is approved for use in Canada will be safe and effective.
Le député de Charbonneau-Haute-Saint-Charles.
The honourable member for Charlesbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the CEO of Solstar wrote to the Minister of Innovation and said, "We tried to get things moving in Canada, but without much luck. We were unable to access any funding or key strategic partnerships to get into Canadian labs." You see, Mr. Speaker, Canadian companies can do the job. The fact that TriLink in San Diego was quick to partner with Solstar is clear proof. Why did the minister neglect Solstar? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for his question. As I said earlier, Mr. Speaker, we've invested in an unprecedented way very shortly after the pandemic started. We've done a lot to support the biomanufacturing industry. So a month after the pandemic started, we'd invested some $800 million. Mr. Speaker, I would invite my colleague to encourage the CEO of the company he was talking about to get in contact with me. We're happy to speak to everybody, and we're willing to support Canadian companies. We already have supported a number of them, and we will continue to. Now, I'm a member for Charlesbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, another question is raised by Dr. Gary Kobinger, who walked out on the COVID-19 vaccine task force in reaction to comments from the Liberal government suggesting Canada doesn't have the brains to develop COVID vaccines. And the minister also said that to set up a new vaccine factory, you need expertise. And Kobinger said this was the insult of the last 10 years. The Liberals often speak highly of Canadian know-how, but why don't they support it? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for his question, and I can reassure him that we have a lot of respect for Canadian scientists and know-how. I've visited a number of labs. Let's set the record straight, Mr. Speaker. We've made historic investments in biomanufacturing in Canada. Let me just name some of the companies that we've supported. Innovaccine Technologies in Nova Scotia, Endos Pharmaceuticals in Alberta, Providence Therapeutics in Alberta, Simvivo, which is in BC, Biodextrix, and Clicovax in Montreal. Mr. Speaker, we will continue investing. The honourable member for Beauport-Limoilou. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's been 10 years since the federal government hired Irving shipyards to build frigates, but the work still hasn't even started. We now know the first ship won't be ready until 2031 at the earliest, 10 years down the road. Imagine, Mr. Speaker, not a single ship built in 20 years. Meanwhile, Davie Shipyard, the best in North America, has been snubbed. When will the government finally realize that the only intelligent fix for 20 years of delay is to give Davie Shipyards its fair share of the contracts? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, Davie Shipyards is a strong partner and a reliable one. They make considerable efforts to help our government get results for Canadians. Davie Shipyards was excluded from major contracts by the previous government, but we've given them over $2.4 billion worth of contracts to this Quebec company. We support shipbuilding in Canada and its workers from coast to coast to coast. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, the exclusion of Davie Shipyards, and it is a shipyard, and the amount given is a far cry from the $60 billion in shipbuilding, and that's what the total cost will be. In excess of the $26 billion originally awarded in contracts. That's more than the total health care budget in Quebec, just the overruns, $1,000 per Canadian. That's what it costs to snub the best shipbuilder in North America, Davie Shipyards. When will the government give Davie Shipyards and Quebecers some of the work? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, that's not true. Not at all. This government has awarded contracts worth $838 million to Davie Shipyard for the acquisition of 3 commercial icebreakers. The first ship began operating in December 2018, and the conversion work for the Jean Goodmill is moving ahead well, and the first frigate for the Canadian Navy arrived at Davie Shipyard for repairs and maintenance.
At Carson Warner.
Canada had a clear pandemic guidebook pre-COVID, which this Liberal government completely ignored at the peril of Canadians and Canada. Canadians need the Liberals to share the data used to support their public policy decisions, data that is being intentionally hidden or not available because they fail to collect it. The federal government is failing in everything from travel screening and rapid testing to vaccine procurement, vaccine rollout, and lockdowns, all of which continue to plague our country's ability to recover. Where is the data, and what is the plan for recovery? Or would the Liberals prefer Canada remain in a perpetual pandemic?
Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And every step of the way, our response has been guided by science and evidence. We're so proud of our hardworking public servants, researchers, scientists, and public health professionals that have helped Canada in its response. I will also point him to the canada.ca/coronavirus website, where all of the data that we are collecting is available. In fact, many researchers around the country use that data to provide additional analysis, for which we are also grateful.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, an Oshawa constituent is a nurse working for the federal government servicing Indigenous communities. However, due to logistical complications between the federal and provincial governments, this nurse has been unable to be vaccinated, thus putting the vulnerable communities that they are servicing at risk. Considering that this government has been vaccinating critical federal employees like our armed forces, why won't they also vaccinate critical federal healthcare employees serving vulnerable and remote communities?
Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, I will say that we are lucky in Canada to have the National Advisory Committee on Immunization, which has provided expert advice about how to roll out the variety of vaccines that Canada has received and will receive. This advice reflects the best scientists who work for the NACI team and provide that advice to the Government of Canada, and also allows for the provinces and territories to build their vaccine strategies built on NACI's advice. The approach is based on saving lives first and then protecting people that are working close to folks that are at risk of contracting COVID.
Member for Red Deer Mountain View.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Liberal government's total failure to deal with this pandemic is having devastating impact in my riding of Red Deer Mountain View. This government simply can't get anything right. We're 6 months behind many other countries in the world when it comes to procurement and to vaccine distribution. Canada now ranks 38th in the world for vaccinations per capita. Rather than fix the problems, the Liberal government is distracting from them and continues to fail Canadians with chaotic and disorganized vaccination programs. When will the Liberal government realize there is no policy substitute for a transparent vaccine strategy?
Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. In every step of the way, we've been transparent with Canadians, including by giving regular updates in the press on a regular basis from a variety of officials and elected officials, by working clearly and transparently with provinces and territories so that they can plan the vaccine rollout. And we'll continue that approach, Mr. Speaker, because Canadians expect no less.
Oops, one moment. The Honourable Member for Glengarry Prescott Russell.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to protecting and supporting our supply-managed producers. Evidence of this can be found in our recently signed transitional free trade agreement with the UK, which makes no concessions on supply management. Last week, the Prime Minister, several ministers, members, and I met with dairy, poultry, and egg producers to discuss the future of supply-managed agriculture. Can the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food provide this House with an update on compensation under supply management? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We announced an accelerated schedule for the payment of compensation to dairy producers as a result of the free trade agreements with the European Union and the Trans-Pacific Zone. The $1.75 billion envelope will therefore be paid out over a 4-year period. We sent a letter to all dairy producers indicating how they can access the second compensation payment. Our government is committed not only to protecting supply management, but also to no longer giving up market share under future negotiations.
Role as critic for rural economic development. Rural businesses are critically important for Canada's future. That's why I was disappointed to read the Liberal Rural Economic Strategy, which completely leaves out our critical hunting and angling sectors. Hunting and angling contributes over $1 billion in annual GDP to Canada. So why are the Liberals ignoring our hunting and angling sectors?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to congratulate my colleague on his new role, and I look forward to working with him to ensure that every rural community is part of Canada's recovery and indeed leading it. He referred to our economic development strategy for rural Canada, the first of its kind, Mr. Speaker, focus on 3 pillars: people, places, and partnerships. That includes everybody, including service groups, including hunters and anglers, including businesses, including the charitable sector, and especially in the post-pandemic Canada. Mr. Speaker, we cannot afford to leave anyone behind, and we intend to ensure everyone's connected to high-speed internet.
Honourable Member for Kenora.
Mr. Speaker, tourism operators in northwestern Ontario rely primarily on American clients to keep their business running. Given that we are well into February, they need to know now if they will have international visitors this summer or if they will lose another season. Some level of certainty from this government, one way or another, is crucial for these businesses to plan ahead. So when will tourism operators know if fully vaccinated foreign nationals will be exempt from travel restrictions or not?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to my colleague for his important question. I had the chance to have many discussions with tourism operators in Northern Ontario, along with many of my colleagues. And obviously, we know they're going through difficult times, but we've been there for them since the beginning of the pandemic. We've invested $10 billion through the wage subsidy, through the regional development agencies, through also the support to fixed costs. And recently, we even launched the highly impacted sector support. And so, of course, it will be a pleasure to work with my colleague to make sure that these tourism operators have access to this very particular new support. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Commercial Rental Assistance Program is there to help our entrepreneurs who are paying dearly for this pandemic. There's a young entrepreneur in my riding who's a property owner and has paid taxes for over 10 years. In the spring, he got the subsidy, but since September, this tenant has been cut off. Do you know why? Because it's not arm's length. Can the Finance Minister correct this absurdity and support all entrepreneurs, including honest young Canadian entrepreneurs? The Honourable Minister. Thank you for the question, Mr. Speaker. I agree with my colleague that the Rent Assistance Program is a very important program to support our Canadian businesses as part of our fight against the pandemic. With each and every program we have, for example, the Rental Assistance Program, we have to be sure that the program is helping as many businesses as possible, while at the same time maintaining the integrity of the program. We're still trying to strike the right balance, and we will try to help all businesses who should be entitled and have needs under this program. The Honourable Member for Ottawa South. Mr. Speaker, since the beginning of the pandemic, our government has provided financial support to millions of Canadians, helping them put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. But the crisis is still having serious consequences for many Canadians. Giving them more time and flexibility to pay off the interest on their tax debt is a necessity. Can the Minister of National Revenue update us on recent announcements in this regard? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for Ottawa South for his question and his hard work. Indeed, I announced last week that Canadians who received COVID-19 related financial support benefits and who earned less than $75,000 in taxable income will not have to pay interest on their 2020 tax debt until 2022. This measure will give millions of Canadians the flexibility and peace of mind they need to get through this difficult time until they can get back on their feet. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Windsor West.
New land border testing requirements and possible testing for essential travelers is causing confusion and concern amongst Canadians. In my city of Windsor, which accounts for 40% of trade between our countries, thousands of essential workers cross daily to work in healthcare, the supply chain, and transport. For months, I have called for rapid testing and a comprehensive plan for our border crossings that keeps it moving, safe, and builds public confidence. When will this government act on rapid testing, vaccinate CBSA officers, and vaccinate essential workers instead of causing confusion in the community? Why don't you just act and protect Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, that's exactly what we've been doing, acting with provinces and territories to protect Canadians. In regards to the member's question about rapid testing, we agree it's a very important tool. And as the member may realize, we've shipped over 21.6 million rapid tests to provinces and territories, 6.7 million to Quebec, 4.1 million to Quebec, 6.7 million to Ontario, 2.3 to Alberta, and Mr. Speaker, even more to other provinces and territories. We will continue to ensure that provinces and territories have the tools that they need, as well as the guidance to use it.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Uncoordinated provincial and territorial responses to COVID-19 have failed to halt the spread of the virus in Canada. Small and medium-sized businesses are struggling to survive. Millions of Canadians are experiencing financial hardship. Mental health challenges, drug overdoses, and domestic violence have increased. Will the government work with the provinces and territories to create an intergovernmental COVID task force to coordinate a national response to the pandemic so Canada can get to zero and end the lockdowns?
The Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister.
Sorry about that, Mr. Speaker. You'd think we'd be beyond unmuting. Well, first of all, thank you to the member for the question. And all Canadians have been working incredibly hard and sacrificing a lot to get through the pandemic. And I want to thank all Canadians for their enormous efforts. We already have an intergovernmental coordinating committee, Mr. Speaker. It's called the Special Advisory Committee, and all members of all medical officers of health from all across the country work together as professionals, as doctors, to guide our country's response. And of course, that's led and chaired by our incredible Dr. Tam to make sure that we have consistency and cohesion for the guidance that we provide to Canadians, as well as the efforts that we take in procurement, in research, and in various other aspects of managing COVID. That has served us well and will continue to support provinces and territories through that mechanism and many other strategies and tables that meet.
And that's all the time we have for today. C'est tout le temps que nous avons aujourd'hui. OK, nous avons quelques...
And now, a few points of order. First, the Honourable Member for La Prairie. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the parties have consulted, and if you seek it, you will find unanimous consent for the following motion: that this House call upon the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship to grant permanent residency as soon as possible to Mamadi Camara in accordance with Article 25(1) of the Immigration Law and Refugee Protection Act.
Que tous ceux qui s'opposent à...
All those opposed to the motion will please say nay.
D'accord. La Chambre a entendu l'énoncé.
The House has heard the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. No? Carried.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Griesbach.
Mr. Speaker, when the member from Red Deer Mountain View was asking a question, I noticed that another member popped up on the screen. I think it was inadvertently interrupting the Red Deer member. So I'm just wondering if the MP from Red Deer wants a chance to re-ask the question.
The Honourable Member for Kingston and the Islands.
On that point of order, Mr. Speaker, that happened a number of times today, and it's definitely happened in the past. Rather than this ad hoc way of approaching it, which we seem to have done, perhaps you should come to some conclusion as to how we proceed when this kind of thing happens, because otherwise we're going to see this happening every single day. So I think you need to make a ruling on what should happen in these events.
What's happened in these events is the Speaker has been using his or her judgment, and depending on whether it pops up for a while or whether it's just instantaneous, then the Speaker usually makes a decision on that basis. And when the Honourable Member was making his statement, it came up very instantaneous and very temporary. That's why I didn't have him ask his question over again. So if it's okay with the Chamber, I would leave it to the Speaker, regardless of whether it's the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, or Assistant Deputy Speakers, to use their judgment on that. And I think we've been fair. Hopefully that is something that is acceptable. But if there is something that comes up, by all means, bring it to our attention. We are more than happy to work with all the members so that they do get their fair share. Is that okay? Okay, the Honourable Member is okay, so that's perfect. Good. Recorded division. I'm sorry? Oh, member from, no, the member from Hochelaga no longer has her hand up. Yeah. Comme il est 3h12.
It being 3:12, pursuant to order made on Monday, January 25th, 2021, The House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion of Mrs. Gray relating to the business of supply.
Already started the vote. Is it on a technical issue?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Go ahead.
There's times when they're speaking in French, we cannot hear the interpreter in English. The French overrides it, and I'm just wondering if that could be corrected.
Very good. Thank you. Our technical people have heard that, and hopefully they get that straightened out. Thank you. Convoquez les députés.
Call in the members.